What happened?
Well, when I was in some of the earlier years of the business, we were painting a house on this cut through street, and we uh, the we were going over colors with the lady. My office people were, and this lady wanted a yellow house, and all our samples weren't yellow enough. So we kept bringing brighter and brighter yellow samples out. And finally, when we painted the house, it was so bright yellow, it was like the yellow in the uh, that you'd have in the street in the center line. And we couldn't decide whether we were going to keep our sign up or not. We put our sign up, we took our sign down, we put our sign up. And what did happen is all the cars stopped. They all stopped to take a look at this house. And it's sort of embarrassing in a way, but
Yeah.
the lady ultimately blamed it on us that we picked the wrong colors. But she was just being an obstinate old lady. So but, we got a lot of so we get our sign up most of the time. So we got a lot of advertising out of that. So good or
There you
bad.
go. There you go. Man, it's all kinds, huh? Oh, fantastic. Well, today's guest is John Neubert of Neubert Painting from Cleveland, Ohio. John's been a member of DYB since 2016, and he was first on the podcast back in 2018, episode 33. So if you want to hear the full backstory, make sure you check out episode 33 there. It's a fantastic interview. He shares how he started his business back in the 70s. At just 18 years old, he has now been in business for 48 years, consistently producing $3 to $4 million in sales each year. John, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Yep, good to see you, Steve. Thanks.
So, what, you're 66 now?
Yeah, I am 66. I've been doing this a long time. I'm still
Okay.
real active in the business. My daughter works in the business with me, and I have a couple operations managers, my office manager. So we run this thing together.
Okay.
I've slowed down a little bit, but I don't run operations, but I still sell a lot. I'll sell personally over $1 million worth of work a year. So I'm out talking to customers every day, which is a little bit unusual because a lot of business owners quickly discard the selling function and just become the CEO of the company and hire salespeople. I think
Mm.
I've
So,
always felt it important to be out there to get the pulse of what's going on.
you enjoy the sales component as well?
I'm good at it. I like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Um, your drive. So I'd love to dive into sales. Sales is always fun to talk about. But first, where does your drive come from?
I don't know. I mean, people in my generation just worked really hard. So,
Mm,
I was 11 or 12. I was caddying. I worked in a grocery store before I started painting and started the business when I was 18. Did 6 houses the first summer, 8 the second summer. My brother had been painting for a guy. And so we just, one day I told him, hey, let's start our own painting company. And I quit my job at the grocery store and the business just grew from there. So the drive comes probably from my parents and stuff like that. They're all hardworking people. All my siblings all of us are really hardworking. So
mm. Okay. So you came up in it, the generation, culture, family. Indeed. Now back to sales and enjoying it. Do you recall way back when estimating was the toughest when we first started out and how maybe we didn't enjoy it? And so my question though is that like it's the grinding through and developing the skills that produces the passion, right? So now it's
Mhm.
like we're great at sales, so we love it. Was that true for you in the beginning though? Because I know for me, I struggled right when trying to learn sales and understand it, and it wasn't something that I might have enjoyed until I won one, and then it's like yay! But then the next 20 or whatever, you're still trying to grind it out. Do you remember way back when trying to figure out sales, if the passion was there or if it was developed once the skills kicked in?
I think I always liked it, and I may have had some natural skills with it. But what I didn't have was a system to use. And today we work off a system that was basically developed by us, but we had professional sales training along the way, and we used some elements of that. And today we all have pretty much the same. The way what we do when we're out on a sales call is about the same.
Can you share a little bit more about the system?
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you're out selling, you're trying to solve people's problems, and so it's really pretty easy. I mean, the bonding and all that. And I mean, there's all sorts of sales techniques and all that, and something. But that's not the real key is to bond with the people. You're there for a reason. They have a problem that needs to be solved. You might have the solution, you might not. I mean, I may go out to a house and I realize that it needs to be vinyl sided, and I'll give them the name of somebody that they should call to get it vinyl sided. So I don't always have the solution. And so if you come across authentic and not self-serving, you're gonna do way better in sales. If you're just trying to sell jobs and you're not willing to walk away from ones that really aren't appropriate, yeah, you're not going to do as well. That's
Indeed.
basically in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate that. You mentioned I've gone through some professional sales training through the years. Who were some of those, or what were some of
Uh,
those?
the main one is what we did back then was a long time ago. We were active in their group was Sandler Sales. Um, It Sandler Sales is pretty heavy stuff. I mean, it uses a lot of manipulation, and so some of that is some of the techniques are just natural to us. We use them, but we don't use heavy Sandler. I'm not a huge fan of it. Today, if you really want to get sales stuff that for free, I would recommend following a group of people that they're consultants that they're in the market to sell stuff, but they have a lot of free content if you get on their email list, and their techniques are phenomenal. There's a group called the Black Swan Group, and these are former FBI hostage negotiators, and they'll teach you a lot of stuff that will help you negotiate with people better and help your selling process.
The Black Swan Group. That reminds me of what's his name? He wrote the book Never Split the Difference.
Yeah, that's probably that. I don't know if that's them or not, but
Okay.
the one technique that Sandler doesn't teach is basically when you're in a sales call and you're trying to differentiate yourself from competitors, is making sure that people know what they're not going to get from somebody else. Going down that list of here's what you're not going to get, da da da, and people respond better to that. And Sandler does not have that. It's not part of the Sandler sales program, but it's probably one of the best techniques that you can use. And that and
Okay.
that's one of the things that if you read their literature, that's one of the things that they would talk about.
You're well read. Did you read Influence by Cialdini?
No, I did not. No, no.
Okay. All right. He talks about perceptual contrast. And so it sounds like that's the point you're making here, which is powerful. Now, where would you mentioned Sandler is heavy on um, what did manipulation or a little heavier on manipulation. I remember Sandler. I looked into it a little bit. I wasn't, um, this has probably been 10, 15 years ago. And I didn't get into it all the way. So I don't know everything about their system. But what would you say? Where's the line or what's the difference between influence and manipulation? At what point are we going too far?
Um, that's a gray area, slippery slope. It's hard to say where that is, but I mean, a lot of old sales which still exist are the living room sale. And Sandler teaches a little bit of the living room sale, and that's the sale where you want the husband and wife both in the living room to make the sale. And certainly, it's ideal if you can be in the house at their kitchen table and all that, but that's not always true. And our customer base is a lot of high income professionals, and number one, they don't have time, so they're not going to give you a lot of time. And they know all this stuff. They've been through all this training, so they can see it. They see it right. So they're not going to sit through it. So personally, I'm not going to sit through a presentation where a guy's going to flip through a bunch of slides. I'm not going to give them a lot of time. My wife doesn't care about anything to do with home improvement, so some people make a requirement that the wife is there, which is ridiculous because today the nuclear family that we that we knew isn't as common. We're dealing with all sorts of situations with customers, and which are perfectly normal. And my feeling is whoever's going to meet with you, even if they're not the decision maker, certainly has a big influence on the decision maker. Usually the decision maker is going to make they're going to try to make sure that they're the ones talking to you.
Interesting. Okay, very good point. I like that. Thank you. You started to share here in the opening about some of your operations managers and such. Would you give us an overview of your org chart? Because
Yeah,
you
right
ramp
now
up.
we
Sorry, because
yeah
you
right
ramp
now
up
we
to
have
what, 80
two.
guys? Mhm.
Yeah, we have two. Well, we're running around 75 people. At our peak, at one point, we had 130 people seasonally. But our company's changed. We do a little less seasonal business, and we do more interior business. We have 10 full-time interior painters that paint inside and cabinets. I have two operations managers, and one Matt's been with me since 1987. He started when he was 18, and then we're supported by office staff. Of three full-time office people, and then we pick up three more during the summer. So we have a big support staff in the support the summer operation.
Now, your ops managers, they do well. I mean, they get paid six figures, if I recall right. You shared that at a public event once. So
Yeah,
without going into
yeah,
details, yeah.
they get paid really a lot. So we work off the same bonus pool, and I'm a big believer in sharing the what we make. And so what we do. Our bonus system is sort of uncommon and would be hard to copy because you have to have the mindset that you're willing to share everything. And that goes up and down. So we go up and down together while we have between good years and bad years. But it's a little bit different system. So than most people have a tough time getting their arms around what we do.
Okay. So 10 full time, and then so you pick up another, 60, 70 in the summer.
Yeah, we'll have this year maybe about 55 to 60 people seasonally
Now, are
working
these
for us.
employees or subs?
These are all employees except for two carpenters that are subcontractors. So
Hmm.
we hire mostly college people for exterior work, and so we're hiring people after their senior year in high school, sometimes after freshman year in college, and we'll keep them from maybe just one summer to maybe two, three, 4 summers, and that they move on.
So, if you've been in the industry for a while, which we have, you've noticed that College Pro, right, is a big organization, and there have been many guys who've left College Pro and started their own businesses.
Mhm.
Do you find that for yourself as well as you're hiring these college guys? Do they some of them go off and say, "Hey, I can do this," and start their own
Um,
business?
the only people that have done that, we've had a couple managers that have successful businesses that went off on their own, and our painters that went off on their own stayed small shops. But a couple of the managers, I had two managers that left um, probably about 14 years ago. That two brothers, and they run a operation that's a little bit more geared towards doing commercial work. And so their sale volume is probably a little higher than ours. And then we had another manager left, and he runs an operation that's decent size. But our painters themselves, they don't have they don't have the management knowledge that we that 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 they need to get beyond having just one or two people. So we've never seen any of them become decent size.
Okay, leadership skills goes a long way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They learn. My managers learn a lot here, and
Hmm.
they know how to run a good size operations. That's what they're taught how to do.
Yeah, no doubt. What's your hiring process look like currently?
We we're hiring uh, basically college guys. We had tough time during the pandemic hiring, and we couldn't get people in for interviews. It was it our so our the quality of our labor dropped a lot. We put a huge recruitment campaign out this year, and we raised our wages significantly. We think we're above market in the service industry for wages. And currently, we're in an overhire situation, and we're developing a huge list of people we probably have 20, 30 people that look fully qualified that we can't even, we're holding off on even interviewing them. So we're in an overhire situation, but the paint market is turning right now. So this is happening right when demand's sort of taking a tumble. Demand's not very strong right now. So this is so what happened during the pandemic, we had crazy amounts of demand and not enough labor. And my judgment right now is it has flipped probably.
So it's flipped finally. So it's back to the way it used to be, where guys are looking for work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, supporting that is we're paying a really high wage. I mean, we're starting guys at the guys that start with us this summer will make on average about 21, $22 an hour. That's guys with no experience. So
Wow, a little bit different from when we started, huh?
yeah, it's crazy, but I'd say that's a little bit above market average. And so when I see companies with help wanted signs and they can't hire people, I mean, we're hiring those people from places like that, and frankly, they're not paying enough.
hmm Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, obviously, the economics means that you have to raise your price to hold margins,
Hmm.
and then that also requires great branding, marketing, repeat, referral, and sales skills as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have the repeat business, we'd be in trouble. But we have a huge repeat business, which are easier to sell. And so some of these jobs you're going on, you're sometimes going out there and you give them a price that might be, say, if we worked for them 12, 13 years ago, their price probably has doubled, maybe more than that. And if they're pretty loyal to you and you've been servicing them, they'll most cases go along with hiring you again. So.
Indeed. So, step 9 in the DYB system is staying top of mind. What are some methods that you employ to do this?
Real simple. We have currently 4,900 customers, people that are active in our system, and so we keep them in our system unless they move or something, and our mail our so we reach them two different ways. They get a mailer once a month, and they get probably today about two emails a month reminding them about our interior services and stuff. So they we and most of that stuff probably hits their inbox and they just delete it, or it hits their mail and gets thrown in the garbage. But so even if they don't open it and read the message, your name stays in front of them and they know who you are.
How
So
often?
that's what's that?
I'm sorry. So, how often do you mail or email them?
Yeah, one email a month and two emails a month. So
Gotcha. Okay.
so you so you're that is it's the cheapest marketing that you can do, and most people don't do it. So I bet 95% of people in our business do not they don't stay in touch with with people after they've painted. It's so easy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I heard stat once, I don't know how you can confirm it, but it says that it's 500% cheaper to sell a current customer, repeat customer, than it is to get a new customer. I believe the principle. I don't know if you can improve that is 500% cheaper. However, I agree with you that most people do not. And, I often think about that. And I wonder if it's because old habits die hard. When we get started in the business, it's new leads, because we don't have any leads. And so we just keep going and hustling after new leads, that we forget that we have this whole pool of raving fans that already know, like, and trust us. And if we
Yeah.
just stay top of mind.
Yeah. So we did that from pretty much from the beginning. And so when I was in business school, I have an MBA in business. And so my mentor was head of head of the management and labor department at Cleveland State, and I had him for undergrad and grad. And he taught entrepreneurial studies and strategic planning. And one of the things he taught us was back then there was a company called Radio Shack, and Radio Shack, which is no longer in business, but they what they were really good at is they captured they were one of the first retailers to capture the information of who the customers were. So when you went in Radio Shack, they got your information, and I don't know if it was some club you bought so many things you got a free thing or something like that, but they captured your information, and the next thing you know, you were getting a circular in the mail from Radio Shack regularly. And in its time, it was a go-to place for finding all sorts of electronics that weren't easily available.
I- yeah, I remember components to stereo head units, the old ones we had in the cabinets in the home to TVs. Yeah, Radio Shack was a staple back in the day, and so
Yeah,
I
but
didn't know that they were the first ones.
well, they were among the first ones. Most retailers didn't do that. Today they know all the retailers are phenomenal at that. And obviously, you buy anything online, they capture your email, and then they email you every single day until you unsubscribe. Or I mean, or if you also want to sit there and hit the delete button,
Yeah.
delete
Mhm.
out 50 emails every time you go in.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Um, we've had some fun discussions, you and I, over the years about tech stack and whiteboards and job flow processes. Any updates to yours, or give us a quick review of yours,
As
please?
far as I'm not sure what you're looking at. Are you looking at what we
Uh,
use for to do our stuff, or
yeah, yeah,
well, we have a CRM system that we built like 15, 20 years ago that we just use on our computers. And so so that's on our server, and that only is used in the office, and that was a custom made database, and it's real stable. The guy that did it, I pay him a retainer every month, and he never has to do anything because we don't change that much. Every once in a while, we'll make a change, and so that's our actual CRM system. And obviously, I'm a big spreadsheet guy, tons of Excel files. Um, what we did do that's different though is we really manage the company today off of our phones. We all our scheduling and everything that's going on from. So if I need to know where what painters on what crew, or how many certifications he has in our training system, or what my schedule looks like coming up the next week, or looking at our interior schedule, what's on it. It's all on Google Docs, and Google Docs is just a free resource. And so I'm just amazed how much stuff we have on Google Docs. I mean, it's just like endless. And but we're literally managing a good part of what we do as far as the scheduling part right off of Google Docs.
indeed. So let's see. You've been at this 48 years. What does the future look like for you? Is there a succession plan or an exit in mind? Or are you just going to ride this in to the sunset?
That's a good question. Well, my daughter's in the business. I mean, so she'll continue owning it. Probably she'll be running it with one of my operations managers. My head operations manager will. He's the he's basically runs the company today as far as the management of actual being out in the field and stuff like that. So I'm not out in the field much, and so he's the natural successor. That's a good question. Uh, Companies like ours, it's 50-50 on successful transitions into a new generation of managers and all that. So that's a transition that we talk about a lot. My skill set is, if I was in a big company, I'd be a chief financial officer. I'm a numbers guy. I know how to analyze stuff and figure out strategy. I'm really good with vision stuff, and most people aren't good at all that, any of that stuff and all that. So that's tough. So just because you can run the operations, you may be weak in some of the other areas. My operations manager, Matt, he's definitely not a spreadsheet guy and all that. So that's the challenge in the transition. Is it would probably be, as I my role diminishes, he would have to get a finance person in here to do a lot of what I do. Someone who's a good numbers person, because that's not his skill set.
Okay. It's interesting you mentioned visionary. You had shared in the last podcast, in episode 33, that you follow the traction process,
Mhm.
and they talk about a visionary, and they also talk about needing an integrator. Visionary needs an integrator. Is that true for you guys? Do you have an integrator as well, being that you find yourself being a visionary?
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by the integrator.
So the integrator is basically the implementer of the visionary's plans. So a lot of
Um,
times it's whether it's a general manager or it's the admin assistant.
Yeah. Well, the visionary. Hmm, you do have to have the implementer. It's not necessarily the same person, so I'm not sure I'm the implementer. I know, like we took like we had a kitchen cabinet refinishing, and my operations manager identified it before I did, but I ran with it. Said, "Wow, this is crazy good." And so uh, I think we were both involved with implementing. It was a lot. It took us about a year to develop the processes, the sales processes. We put a $50,000 spray booth in. But trying to implement something from scratch was basically a new add-on business to what we had. That took that was that took some work, but it had to had to have the green light for me to go ahead with it. I mean, he came up with the idea, but I don't know if he would have ran with it. But once I decided to run with it, we both ran with it. We both were involved in that process. Today, I'm less involved with that. I'm less interested. I'm obviously selling a lot of those jobs, but the processes are in place, and now at most we're doing is tweaking things. So,
Okay. What are some books you'd recommend to some guys getting going here? Maybe they're trying to break the million mark yet.
I think Traction's a great book. That has a whole laundry list of stuff that I like the most is the whole one. They have a whole laundry list of all things you shouldn't be doing. I think we don't follow the traction model complete, but I think it's a good model. We have weekly meetings, and they're given off. They're based a little bit off traction. We don't we're not into the having the lingo. There's always new lingo in the business world, and they call them rocks and all that. And rock, there's nothing special about calling them rocks or anything like that. But what traction does is make people accountable. So when you have meetings, people are accountable to what they say they're going to do and all that. So that's one of the values of traction. There's lots of great books. Good to Greats is one of my favorites. Trying to think. Most of a lot of the books that I read when I was younger are. I'm not sure if they're the. I was a big fan of Peter Drucker, he would be if he was alive, he'd be like 110 now. But he had some of the best business books. Uh, one called The Effective Executive. It's a great book if you can find it. Just tremendous book. The stories are old, but the stuff is really phenomenal. Today, there's just a flood of books, and to me, they look like lots of just regurgitated stuff from the original Peter Drucker. I mean, people, there's only so many of these business books you can read because a lot of them just say the same things and all that. As far as customer service goes, I would recommend uh, uh, the reading the book by the former head of the Disney World Resorts, and that's I'm slipping his name right now, but reading about Disney is phenomenal on customer service, and I'd definitely recommend anything with dealing with them.
Thank you. You mentioned that a big mistake that a lot of people make are not staying top of mind to their customer base. What's another one or two big opportunities that others are not taking advantage of or
Well, as
doing or
far as thing,
executing?
as far as taking care of their customers,
Well, just in business, what are the biggest opportunities or habits that guys are missing out on, whether it's taking care of their customers, whether it's their culture, whether it's leadership, management skills, operations? What do you see?
um, I think when you're dealing with customers, you just got to do the right thing and not the most profitable thing for in the short term. And I think people make that wrong choice very often. And today with like Google reviews and things like that, you really need to make the right choices, or you're going to get or you're going to have bad reviews. Uh, but when you're dealing with customers, you're again getting back to the sales process. I think of when I'm dealing with customers, I'm thinking about them being my mother or a relative of mine, and trying to give them the best advice. And sometimes that knocks me out of the sale. So I'm trying to tell them I'm trying to help them along. So one of my routine things, if I'm on a sales call looking at a wood house, where we have peeling problems up in our part of the country and things like that. It's a very common question is have you considered putting vinyl siding on? So and I'm just exploring. They may say, yeah, I got some vinyl siding estimates. I may even encourage them to go that way. But so again, being authentic with people. And when you're dealing with customer problems, my experience is that one of the worst things you can do is be defensive about it. Uh, 95% of the time, the customer is right about what they're complaining about. It's usually a communication issue very often. They're just not making this stuff up. I mean, there are some bad players with customers that are out to get you, maybe. But if your perception is that most of the customers are that way, that those are your tapes, not. I mean, that's your problem because when you go out and deal with issues with customers, they're right most of the time.
Yeah, and deal. Now, just for context here, when you say it's your tape, I think what you mean is that that's your story that you have in your head, and it's not correct. We need to change that, right?
We're all stuck with lots of tapes from our life experience, and you got to get. I'll give you an example of a tape. We did in the past. We did very unsuccessfully did a couple high school job fairs, and so we got solicited this year on another job fair at another school system years later, and we could have just said, "Oh, that didn't work. We're not going to do it." And one of my managers went with one of the painters, and we probably we'll get probably 6, 7, 8 hires out of that of doing that jobs fair. So if your tapes are running and say no, it doesn't work, we're not trying that. Yeah, okay, it won't work. Good, God bless you. But we tried it again and it works. And now we're interested in it. We saw how it worked. We think we can. We think if we can find those situations, we can make those work. So
Indeed. Yep. 6, 7 out of your first attempt. That's very successful. Well
that
done.
was totally worth it. And I didn't go to it. It was one of my managers, one of our painters, and I had very low expectations, and I told him going in, don't worry about it. This may not work and all that, but it did work really well. I listened to a interview from the guy that Jim Collins from Good to Great. I've just found on YouTube one I was listening to it uh, about a month ago. I was on a walk and I was bored with podcasts, and I said I'm going to listen to some Jim Collins, and I found some Jim Collins, and it was phenomenal. And I already heard all the stories and read all the stories, but it's still really great to hear it fresh out of his mouth.
Yeah, indeed. And I was just reviewing his chapter in Good to Great on the flywheel as I was studying inertia to breakthroughs, and just trying to get different perspectives on it because it's really key
Yeah.
uh, to to get that going. And so, yeah, I was just in that book a few nights ago reviewing that. And then for those, I agree with you. I believe that everybody should be in a peer group, and that's why DYB has mastermind groups
Mhm.
and even mastermind groups for those who are startups or 500,000 and working their way to 1 million. And
Mm.
so it's a great option for them to consider.
All the stumbling blocks and all the things that cause you difficulties in growing. Uh, if you're like a peer group, you talk to people. They've been there, and they're willing to help you with things that are stumbling blocks that are causing you to, if you want to grow, are stopping you from growing. My business mentor called it wingspan, and some people have a little bit of wingspan, and then there's people that can run multi-billion-dollar organizations that got crazy, incredible, super genius wingspan, which most of us don't have. But it is wingspan, and you have to be willing to trust that other people are going to do things and do them well, sometimes better than you, and unfortunately, sometimes not as well as you. But you're not going to grow unless you're willing to let that happen. So that's but but there's really no reason why people cannot build successful organizations that are decent size.
Indeed. Absolutely. John, thank you again for coming back on. Thank you for being such a long-standing, valued member. I appreciate you and appreciate our friendship. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way?
They'd reach out, probably just email me at John at NeubertPainting.com, which you can get that off our website, NeubertPainting.com. So
John at NeubertPainting.com. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Thanks again, John.